Welcome back to Advocacy, Alchemy with Professor Ross. Today we have a good one, guys. We're running a 3-city robbery tour, I guess you can call it. We got Queens, Anaheim, and we have just an unknown metro city as a third one. Each one of these clips is fairly wild, and you'll see here in just a second. But what's really wilder is the law that's behind each one of these instances. 3 different incidents, 3 different jurisdictions, 3 completely different legal outcomes once you start pulling apart the statutes and the mental states. All right, with that, we're going to look at New York law, California law, and we'll just take a wild card third state as the third. With that, let's jump in.
Take a good look at this surveillance video obtained by Pix 11 News. You see 3 men creeping up to the front door of a home. Police say they are trying to break in. The homeowner inside with his family makes a move. He breaks the glass of his front door. It scares them off, and the homeowner goes after them. The same men are wanted for at least 13 burglaries, targeting homes in Queens and in Brooklyn, also stealing luxury cars right from the driveway of some of the homes. Police say since June, the team of about 3 or 4 men have been targeting homes during the early morning hours, many of them right here in Whitestone, where neighbors are taking extra steps to keep their homes safe. Louis Ventimilla has lived on this block for 7 years, but he's been in the area for 40 years.
I got cameras all around the house, so we have that surveillance thing, and there's always somebody home. I work variable hours. My kids are in and out, so I think they're targeting like empty homes.
Ventimilla tells Pix 11 News breaking into homes and stealing property is one thing. What he's worried about,
My fear is like the escalation of that, right? It may be homes, but if there's somebody in the home and then someone becomes hurt because of it, that's a terrible thing. So
police say the men are specifically going into homes with luxury cars parked in the driveway. So far, they have stolen at least 9 vehicles, including Mercedes-Benz, a Range Rover, and Porsche, just to name a few.
All right, so in this first clip, we're in a place called Whitestone. Now, this is in Queens, New York. So we'll start with the New York Penal Law, Section 140.30, burglary, first degree. What it requires is that you knowingly enter or remain unlawfully in a dwelling with the intent to commit a crime. And you're either armed, or you injure someone, or you use some dangerous instrument, or you display a weapon. Here we have an attempted entry. This is coordinated activity. You have 3 or 4 guys here. They come in the view. They're peeking around. This is at nighttime. You got a pattern of offenses here that they all point to attempted burglary in the 2nd or 3rd degree, and possibly even the 1st degree, depending on what they were armed with and what the intentions were. Now, the homeowner just happened to be quite quick on his feet, and I'm not sure what busted that glass out, but we can take a good imagination and figure it out. So the homeowner breaking his own door to scare them, now that's classic defensive premises. New York law does allow for reasonable force to prevent unlawful entry. Now let's talk about our instincts here. Anyone who has a home security system that alerts you when people are outside of your home, you can put yourself in this situation. The adrenaline does get the pumping if someone's close to your property at a time when they shouldn't be. So your instincts here. Something's wrong, someone's outside, they're there when they shouldn't be. That's exactly what burglary statutes are built around, protecting the sanctity of your home. All right, let's move into that second clip.
Watch out, watch out. Oh, you sucked her in the face. Y'all niggas sneaky. Y'all niggas sneaky. Bro, need to give up. Y'all niggas sneaky.
Okay, so that next case that happened in Anaheim, California, and like it says, 50 mass people. We guess adults, but they look like teenagers. They just ransacked that 7-Eleven store. Okay, so we're talking about the California Penal Code, Section 211, robbery. That's taking property from another against their will, by force, or by fear. Here we have the threatening of a clerk. Now it says with the rock. We don't actually see it, but you know, hey, they pulled the door open and it's pretty much strong arm robbery when you got a mob of people coming in here. This is considered a second-degree robbery for every participant who aided or abetted in any of these people performing this act. Now also you have potentially burglary. Now that's found at the Penal Code Section 459. That's anytime you enter a building with the intent to commit theft or any other felony. The moment they cross the threshold of that door that was locked, hey, the burglary is complete. Finally, you might have organized retail theft. This is found at Penal Code Section 490.4. Now, remember, California created a special statute because they had so much organized retail theft going on, and specifically for this type of mob crimes. You know, it's a mob of people there, a flash mob, I guess you'd say. So any participants in this coordinated effort, all right, they would get hit with this charge. You also have, it was filmed by one of the participants, so they're also going to get hit with all these other charges. Finally, you have conspiracy. That's found at the Penal Code Section 182. And when you have this many people, up to 50 people acting together on the same unlawful plan, it's pretty easy to think you might have a conspiracy here. All right, so when you're talking about conspiracies, intuition is going to play a large part. Here you had chaos, adrenaline, dozens of suspects. Officers rely on instinct to identify real threats. In the end, they'll locate the organizers. All right, so next, let's move into this third and final clip. Okay, our last clip, I think it comes from Georgia. The woman talked about coming from a lounge from somewhere in Atlanta, so we'll use Georgia law. Let's start first with self-defense. In Georgia, that's found at the Official Code of Georgia annotated, section 16-3-21. A person is justified in using force, including deadly force, when they reasonably believe such force is necessary to prevent, number 1, death, number 2, great bodily harm, and number 3, a forcible felon. Now, forcible felonies are specifically listed here in Georgia. Armed robbery is 1, robbery is 2, and aggravated assault is 3. Let's analyze what happened here. We have it here playing as I've been talking, but look, these girls go up the stairs to look like they're hiding to run back down on these other two. But specifically, I point out the woman has a gun in her hand as she's coming up the stairs. I don't know. Well, I left the link to each of these people. So now going forward, when I use these TikToks, I'll have their links in the description, so you can go back and watch them again if you want to, or whatever. All right, back to the law. All right. Now, Georgia is one of these states where you can stand your ground as long as you have rights to be in the place where you're at. So here, this looks like some kind of apartment complex. You run up on somebody when they're trying to go into their door. Good, no one was hurt. Stupid on them. Stupid crime to try to commit. In Georgia, they're going to pretty much ask a simple question. Would a reasonable person in these two women's position fear some kind of imminent forcible felon? I think the answer is simply yes. When two people with a full mask on, some kind of ski mask on, and a hood, so you can't see what kind of hair they have, run up to you, I don't think they're running up to show you some sort of surprise. At least not a good surprise. So, use of deadly force. Well, under the Georgia law, deadly force is justified the moment the woman reasonably believed the forcible felony is about to happen. In this video, it's fairly clear. As soon as these two women run back down the stairs and out of our camera view, they might as well be screaming forcible felony incoming. Okay, next, let's move into our evidentiary standards. All of these clips today are going to result in some police activity. All right, next, let's move through our evidentiary standards. We'll move through these one by one from our weakest to the strongest. First, mere suspicion. Now, at this level, the police or the government can't take any real action. This is based simply on a hunch or pure instinct. There's no proof yet to base anything on. Now, what will happen is many times you'll have the agency, whomever is involved, they will go on high alert and be watching carefully to see if some breach of the law happens. Here, think about that store owner in California. If you have 50 kids outside, I call them kids because they're probably going to be what? Everybody there is 20 and under, maybe. You see 10 cars full of teenagers and young adults. Nobody's buying any gas. Nobody's coming in to patronize the store, but just gathering outside. Don't you start to think maybe something might be up, but no solid proof yet. Moving up one level, you move to reasonable suspicion. Now at this level, the police or the government have specific and articulable facts they can point to, and they can express a belief that they think some criminal activity is afoot. Now in that Queens video, 3 or 4 masked men creeping around outside of a house, masks on, hoodies on, a luxury home. It's about 2 a.m. in the morning. At the level of reasonable suspicion, the police can stop a person and investigate to see if there's any criminal activity afoot. Now moving up one more level, we go to probable cause. Now when you hear this word probable cause, remember, someone is going to get arrested. This is when the police have enough evidence for a reasonable person to believe that a crime has occurred. Going back to that California teens flooding into that 7-Eleven store, taking items, threatening the clerk. This is the level where arrest becomes legal. All 3 of these videos will be essential evidence moving forward. All right, moving up one more level, we have preponderance of the evidence. Now at this level, all that's required is 51% or more in anyone's favor is going to win the case. This is the level where we're talking about people bringing each other to court for civil issues. This is where civil court is. People are going to sue each other for money. There's a contract issue, something of that nature. Think about the store filing a civil lawsuit against the ringleaders of that flash mob. All right, if we had to move up one more level, we're not at the criminal territory just yet. We have one more civil level. This is called clear and convincing evidence. At this level, you're talking about a claim that's highly probable and substantially likely to be true. It takes about 75% of the evidence in your favor to win these types of cases. This standard is going to be required on cases where more receipts are going to be necessary. We're talking about family law cases where they're fighting over their children, mental health cases, cases where you're claiming that someone defrauded you. You're going to need to have more receipts. This is also the level when prosecutors want to add enhancements. All right, moving up one more level. This is our final level. beyond a reasonable doubt. This is the highest level and it's required for every criminal case that's brought. Beyond a reasonable doubt simply means that there's no other logical conclusion besides the defendant being guilty of the charges that are being brought. In order for the government to achieve this standard, they have to have about anywhere from 90 to 95% of the evidence in their favor. Notice it's not 100%, but it's close to 100%. This is where juries lean on both facts and intuition, and they ask those questions like, what would a reasonable person feel in that moment? 3 clips, 3 lessons. Queens showed us the anatomy of a burglary crew. That video from Anaheim, we saw a flash mob becomes a felony swarm. And that final clip from where I think it might be Atlanta, it showed us that sometimes survival hinges on instinct, timing, and the law being on your side. 3 states, 3 laws, 3 moments where everything could have gone completely different. What do you think about these 3? Tell me in the comments below. Like, comment, subscribe. Let's move toward 100,000, guys. Remember, this is Advocacy Alchemy. I am Professor Ross. I'll see you tomorrow. Have a great day. Stay safe out there.
Please subscribe to Advocacy Alchemy for more lectures from Professor Ross.